Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. Today is the 14th of August, 2024, and I am Gianni DePoci, your host. We are joined this week by the one and only Pouyan Zolfagharnia. Pouyan, welcome back. It's great to have you.
Hi, Gianni. Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're having you on at a very auspicious time, to say the least. We're coming into one of the most intense geocosmic time bands of the year. It begins today, Mars conjunct Jupiter in the sign of Gemini with Mercury retrograde, no less, Mercury being the ruler of Gemini. And there's a lot of geocosmics to discuss. But I also wanted to have you on to kind of give a little bit of a preview as to the things that you're going to discuss at the upcoming Lake Bled Investment Retreat from the 19th of September to the 22nd. But before we get into all that, let's just run through what's going on in the markets right now. Obviously, coming off a steep sell-off in stocks and a lot of volatility overall. So what are you looking at right now in terms of the markets, and what geocosmics in the next week or so have your particular attention?
Sure. I think when we look at the equity markets, my thought process is that the sell-off isn't quite finished yet. I think we're having a corrective rally, and I'm looking for another sell-off to continue. And it can happen at any point right now, and may have already started. We've got the August 16th to 19th critical reversal date.
Yeah.
And we're in order of that. So that's one of the most important dates I can see in a lot of the markets that we're looking at. And we're seeing that similar pattern, I think, in most of the markets as well, where we had a steep sell-off early last week, a correction. We would normally expect a 3 to 8 day correction. Coming up to the Fibonacci bands, we usually expect about a 38% to 62% correction, and I think we're bang in the middle of it in the equity markets. So then it's a sensitive time. I'm looking for signals for the sell-off to begin again.
Well, you mentioned 3 to 8 day rally. Today is day 7 from last Monday. And it is, of course, important to point out that the temporary low that formed occurred the very day that Mercury went retrograde. But I mean, you just look at the lineup for geocosmics in the next week. I can't remember the last time we had a lineup this intense in such a short period of time. Mars square Saturn on the 16th, and then on the 19th, Venus square Jupiter, Venus opposite Saturn, Sun square Uranus, and Jupiter square Saturn, all on the same day. I mean, that's a pretty intense time band. And of course, we're finally getting into the central time band of Jupiter square Saturn that's going to last until June 15th, 2025. So, you mentioned how this is a sensitive time. You are starting to see some selling come in the NASDAQ 100 today. We had inflation data come out in the U.S. at estimate, so that inflation beast appears to be tamed. And then we have, now it's looking like a 25 basis point rate cut or 0.25% rate cut coming up in September. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with your assessment here that if we are going to reverse back lower, it's probably going to be in the next few days if it didn't already top out today. So, yeah, definitely an interesting time. I'm going to jump over to bond markets real quick because we continue to see a strong rally in bonds. I'm looking at TLT. I know this is a market that you kind of, you work in real estate property somewhat. So, well, not somewhat, quite a bit actually. So what's your take on, real estate, markets and just interest rates? And it looks like we're going into a period of lower interest rates in the next few months.
Correct. So here in the UK, the Bank of England did reduce the interest rates by 20.25 basis points last month. So, sorry, I should say earlier this month in August. And they do look like they have signaled that that there will be further rate cuts coming up, and I think we can see that in the bond market as you're showing. We are seeing them rally. So I think the assessment everyone's trying to make is have the central banks held off for too long before reducing the rates, and I think based on what we're seeing in the equity markets and the fact that we were calling for them to be topping out around the time when Saturn was going to square Jupiter, it feels that way. I get the sense that they're suddenly going to have to start doing their rate cuts a little bit faster than they probably anticipated. I think they're always a little bit late to the party, the central banks.
Yeah.
They started
Slow to raise, slow
raising
to
them.
cut. Yeah, it seems to be the
Yeah.
current theme. Yeah. Yeah. Let's jump over to precious metals, since I know these are markets you track very carefully. I'm looking at gold here, gold on the precipice of a new all-time high, seeing a little bit of selling today, but I know you especially cover silver. So Pouyan, here's the $1 million question in silver. Are we in a bearish primary cycle, or is this a new primary cycle here? Do you think we possibly expanded? I mean, today kind of looks like, we're in a primary cycle from, June that has already turned bearish. So what's your take on silver here, and how do you think we should position ourselves right now?
You're right. It is very confusing right now. Similar to, I would say, the crypto markets. It's become, there was such a steep sell-off that it makes you think, and it's in the time band for a longer term trough to form, or an intermediate term trough in the case of crypto. So it becomes confusing and quite difficult to pull the bottom when you're in that time band and you see such a strong sell-off. But looking at the seasonality for both gold and silver, what I usually find is, as we go towards the autumn, as we go towards the autumn equinox, these two markets do tend to get weaker, and we generally tend to see gold, especially, form an important crest with the sun in Leo, the sun representing gold, and Leo being the sun in dignity within its own house. And usually you tend to get silver essentially getting a boost from gold and forming highs. But in this instance, we can see divergence happening. We can see silver really breaking down, whereas gold is still nudging up a little bit, and I'll come on to that point in a moment. So my thoughts on your first question, silver, is I believe we're still within a bearish primary cycle. I think we've just had a corrective rally similar to the equity market, and I think I'm expecting another leg down in silver. We got a 4-year cycle forming here in silver, whereas we don't have a long-term cycle forming within gold. It's an intermediate cycle forming within gold, and we haven't really seen the sell-off yet in gold. Right. So when that starts, I'm expecting silver to go down even further. So I'm expecting a much bigger drop in silver, and I don't think we've hit the price targets yet for the 4-year lows. So going back to gold now, as you can see, it's still making higher highs and higher lows. It does look bullish in this primary cycle, and with both gold and crude oil, these two markets are very sensitive to geopolitical risk. And one of my assessment is, it looks like there is going to be a retaliatory attack from Iran on Israel, and that risk is really high right now. And that's why we're seeing these rallies in gold, and we are seeing it in crude oil to some extent as well. And when you look at it, one of the interesting geocosmics that's happening with that, the last attack in April took place with in orb of the Mars-Saturn conjunction. These two planets generally rule, that synodic cycle rules over the war cycle. And now we're seeing the first hard aspect forming after that first seed phase that occurred. Right. So there's a lot of tension. It's been building for 2 weeks. And I remember when it started, I looked at the chart back in April, and the assessment I made was the last attack happened at the Mars-Saturn conjunction, and it was at a full moon. So at the time the sun was in Taurus, and the full moon was in Scorpio, with the moon being in its detriment. So the full moon was a strong signature. And now we have the first phase of that Mars-Saturn synodic cycle taking place, with the full moon coming up in Aquarius. It's going to be a powerful full moon as well, right on our critical reversal date. And interestingly, in April, the attack happened, I think it was a day or two before our critical reversal date in April. So that powerful critical reversal date became an important indicator for me as to when a retaliatory attack might take place. And I think it was the 13th of April, the last attack. So using numerology, I was thinking, well, that was 2024 being 8. So I thought if we're in the 8th month, so we got 8 and the year is 8, so could it happen on the 17th? So 888 was one of the key dates I was looking for, and trying to base then the investment strategy around that. So I'm expecting gold and crude oil to show a significant crest formation. So the 17th is on a weekend. The last attack was on a weekend. It was on a Saturday. So looking at Friday or Monday for a crest formation. And when we do get geopolitical tension, both these markets tend to rally and immediately reverse. Yeah. So you got to be quite nimble in taking profits when that rally takes place.
Well, that's certainly interesting, Pouyan. I will comment, though, when it comes to gold, I really cannot think of another market that has a stronger uptrend right now. I mean, even stocks with the recent sell-off, the integrity of the trend is no longer as strong as it was. Crude oil, as you know, has been range-bound. Bonds, long-term downtrend, short-term uptrend. Crypto, long-term uptrend, short-term downtrend. But gold is really just doing its old thing. So it's really remarkable on that front. And you mentioned crude oil. So let's go ahead and jump over to that now because
sure.
I'm looking at USO, the crude oil fund here, since we have some, data from today. We're selling off right now. The energy market has been really interesting. It's been range bound for a couple of years now. And here we are trying to figure out, these long-term cycles, but you're not really seeing any big moves to the upside or the downside on those. Right. I suspect that, Jupiter square Saturn could change something. And then, of course, you have to consider the Fed is going to start easing, adding money back to the money supply again. Is it that simple when it comes to energy prices rallying in terms of creating inflation, or what's your update on crude oil for us?
I completely agree. We haven't had a strong rally because of the fact that we're kind of trapped in this consolidatory wedge almost, making it really difficult to make a definitive call on the long-term cycles and the intermediate cycles, more particularly. So my understanding of the strategy I had was that crude oil did bottom out, that the 15-month cycle did bottom out in crude oil back in June. So then we were bullish crude oil. It rallied. It went up all the way into the Neptune retrograde. So I was expecting a major cycle crest to form. So I wasn't expecting such a strong sell-off, but it did. The trend completely reversed. And it's interesting, over the past a few years where I've been tracking crude oil, it's interesting how Neptune does that. Every time a statement takes place, it tends to reverse the prevailing trend in crude oil. And we seem to have a double bottom formation. So 10 weeks into the primary cycle, we get a double bottom, which and it could have turned bearish. That could be the first signal that the primary cycle has turned bearish. But given the geopolitics at the moment, it sheds a little bit of doubt. And the fact that we are going to get rate cuts, can that suddenly ignite this market? And my bias on crude oil has constantly been bullish. And I'm going to stick with it, although I haven't seen the rally that I'm looking for yet. We have seen a very quick rebound now over the past week, and what I'm expecting is to see how high this rally will go now. if we do top out around the news of geopolitical tension, then that confirms a bearish outlook, and the primary cycle has turned bearish. Unless then the response from Iran essentially gets an even stronger response from Israel, and I think at that point, then we could then see crude oil start to rally and break that prevailing trend, which we've seen so far. Every time there has been a bit of tit for tat.
Well, very good. I know you are going to talk about crude oil in greater depth at the investment retreat, correct?
Yes, yeah. I'm covering crude oil and looking at the longer trends in crude oil, silver, and the German DAX as well.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's wrap this off with cryptocurrencies. I know that's a market that you cover very closely. Bitcoin's compelling to me here, Pouyan. I'm looking at the weekly chart. It looks a lot stronger than Ethereum right now. I do like the idea that the low we had last week being an intermediate term trough. I think it was 21 months from that November 2022 low. So I'm definitely interested in this. What is your take on Bitcoin? I mean, the primary cycle, I think, is where it's a little bit more challenging. Obviously, some selling today. So what's your take on crypto markets right now?
I completely agree with you. I am. My bias is towards the fact that we have just seen the low, and the intermediate cycle low, and a new primary cycle has started in Bitcoin. So I use on timing solutions, I use the Venus cycles, and I find that they're remarkable for showing crests and trough formation, especially in Bitcoin. And around August 5th was supposed to be a significant low using that cycle and the lunar cycle. So they crossed over on August 5th, and we're supposed to see a rally up now. Now, if you compound that with what we just discussed with gold, if gold continues its bullish trend, if you got the equity market selling off, gold acting as a safe haven around back with geopolitical tension as well, and we see gold rally, it'll be good to see some correlation with Bitcoin here as well. So it is a sensitive time. So it could just be a corrective rally and another decline as well. So that risk is out there, but we have already seen a strong rally in Bitcoin. So a very sharp reversal from last Monday.
Yeah. Well, and of course, we've kind of jumped around a little bit, but Mercury is still retrograde.
Yeah,
and
true.
I'm most intrigued with, this. We see this in a lot of markets and stocks and in crypto. It seemed like on the day Mercury went retrograde, we grew into a consensus that, hey, the economy is slowing. But was that the false move lower with the trickster? You never really know, because now we're around the midpoint in this intense geocosmic period. Do we get another reversal? And then do we get another reversal when Mercury goes direct at the end of the month? So you mentioned staying nimble, and I think that's very important right now in the short term, and not forcing the issue too much on making, home run bets right now, so to speak, because the trickster is out in full force. And, all these Jupiter aspects that we have, Jupiter's in Gemini. So the sign that Jupiter's in his detriment too in Gemini with Mercury retrograde. So it's going to be a very volatile time, I think. And I think you summarized that.
Choppy waters.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, Pouyan, that's all the time that we had for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Any final remarks before we wrap up here?
Thank you, Johnny. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at the retreat. We got a good attendance coming up. It'd be wonderful to catch up and meet a lot of the team face to face. And I hope as many people that want to come can make it.
All right. And just as a reminder, that's going to take place in Lake Bled, Slovenia from the 19th of September to the 22nd. Details can be found at www.mmacycles.com. We also just released the monthly cycles report, the MMA flagship analysis, where we update our outlook on stocks, bonds, commodities, and currencies. And then this upcoming week, we will have the Shanghai report released and the monthly ETF report. So that's all for now, everyone. Pouyan, thanks again, and we'll catch you all next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.